Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Pacific Calls. I'm Jeff Stanfield with
Just plain old Andy, Jeff.
Just plain old Andy today. Because with us today, we have our good friend, former Major League Baseball player Jim Kern, who owns Emu Outfitting, and ex-Major League Baseball player and Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins with us. How y'all doing today, guys?
We're doing great.
Doing great. You had us out hunting hogs last night, and
Heard Fergie missed.
Oh no, he scared the hell out of one.
So
we didn't find it though. It didn't die of shock.
We're gonna break the ice right off this bat. Tell everybody how the first time you met Fergie and how that went, because this is a great story.
Well, the first time I met Fergie was in spring training. I had gotten traded from Cleveland to the Texas Rangers, and it's kind of interesting when you get traded the first time and you walk into the opposing clubhouse. It's kind of like walking into the enemy camp.
Right.
You're not comfortable. Well, as I park in the parking lot in Pompano Beach, Florida, where spring training was, I noticed here's this truck with a bass boat behind it with a Canadian license plate, and I'm wondering, who the hell does this belong to? And you go in the clubhouse and you're looking for somebody to hang with, you know. And so we walk in, and sure enough, the bass boat's Fergie's. So me being a smart ass, I walk over to Fergie and I said, what time are we going bass fishing? And he looked at me and he said, right after practice. And so he takes me out. We get going down the highway and we're talking. He's going to take me to this phosphate pit to fish. And I'm talking how I'm a little, I'm a northern kid from Michigan. I'm not into snakes or gators or such. Immediately, he pulls off the road, turns around, and heads the other direction. And I'm figuring out, what the hell's going on? So we drive down, and he pulls into this boat ramp, and I look at the sign that says Alligator Alley. And I went, this SOB, here he is. So here we're going along. We're running back into the Everglades, and, a landmark in the Everglades is a piece of grass that's 6 inches higher than the other 10 trillion. And he gets me lost in about 10 minutes and pulls in this lagoon. And I bait my hook and I reach over and reach in the water and washing my hands off. He says, you shouldn't do that here. I said, why is that? He said, there's some big-ass gators in here. I mean, some big ones. And I thought, right, yeah, now you're trying to scare me. And so I finish washing my hands, ignore him, and get out and cast. First cast, I'm starting to reel back in, and all of a sudden this log comes up to the surface. And Fergie's got a 16-foot bass boat, and this log is bigger than the bass boat. And all of a sudden it develops a tail, a mouthful of teeth, and now I'm backing up into the middle of the boat, trying to find the exact center. And Fergie says, leave that little guy alone, but don't fish on this side. This is where the big ones are. And this is how our relationship started. I mean, Fergie has terrorized me in my entire life, inadvertently hooking snakes and then reeling them in, terrorizing me and throwing them back out. I mean, this is my good buddy.
Now, how's a guy from Canada like snakes?
Well, it was just the fact that I hooked him. Yeah, it's just a situation where, the snake is only as dangerous if it's in your boat, but it never got in the boat.
But you're not scared of snakes?
No, I'm not scared of snakes.
Oh, I hate snakes.
I've seen them. Well, I had a ranch in Oklahoma, a lot of rattlesnakes and copperheads. When I turkey hunted, never hunted off the ground, always in a tree stand, because copperheads are the same color as leaves, whatnot. Yeah. So, but I think if you see a snake, you're bigger than a snake, make a little bit of noise, it's going to leave. If you corner them, maybe they're going to be a little more defensive. But
so you always shoot them.
Yeah, that too. I shot a lot of snakes, especially a shotgun.
I'll tell you, any time that Fergie went fishing, better be on your toes in the clubhouse, because if he got a snake, he put it in the live well. because he figured he could have some fun. In my book, it talks about, Fergie and snakes equal entertainment. Tell him about what you did to Jim Bibby. I mean, Bibby was a pitcher for the Rangers, 6'5", 260. This man was huge.
His son plays pro basketball, right?
No, his brother played pro basketball. Henry.
Okay, but Mike Bibby is one of them's son.
Henry, that's Henry's son.
Okay, he plays. He may still play now. I don't know.
I think he's a coach.
Okay,
he's a coach now.
Fergie would terrorize. Jim Bibby was Fergie's roommate before. And so Fergie decided to terrorize this man. He had hands that were like meat claws. Tell him what you did to him,
He's a big dude. I'd caught a snake, and I think it was just a water snake, but it was a good 4.5, 5 feet long, black. And I chopped its head off and put it in a live well. And I said, well, I'm going to play a couple of tricks on some of the guys, just pranks. And I took a monofilament line, and I ran it across the top of the lockers and down in towards their spikes. Basically, our shoes were always on the bottom part of the locker, and I put it in between the spikes, ran the monofilament line all the way back to my locker, and waited for everybody to show up. And after Bibby came in, he's getting ready to get dressed. I think he checked basically we had fan mail, and I pulled the snake up like that. Bibby flipped over the back. And many, many words that I won't discuss that he said, but he was going to hurt somebody. I never told him who
Never
did
told
it.
him who.
and Fergie called him either Giant or 747.
Oh, it was incredible. Well, to see a big man do a backward flip like that, and all those words, he said, I'm going to so-and-so, if I get you did this. And I was
Not me.
I was a mummy. Didn't say anything.
See, luckily we don't have copperheads out here because I don't like snakes at all. But turkey hunting, you run into the occasional rattlesnake, but thank God I don't have to worry about.
They'll warn you.
Yeah,
They'll warn you.
exactly. I can at least
rattle.
get a warning with a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Copperhead is just it hits you and
Yeah.
away you go.
Did you grow up in small town?
Town in Canada, little, basically an agricultural foundation where they would basically, we had, I shouldn't say, I think the main, I think, and I'm trying to put it in perspective. They had Pioneer corn and DeKalb, and later on they became King Grain. And what had happened is they got bought out by different companies, but they were just blue collar workers, mostly a farm community.
So you grew up in a small town.
Really small town, 22,000 people.
That's a big town compared to
Well,
Knox City.
Compared to Knox City, we
Yeah.
compare everything to
Yeah.
1,000 people.
But I moved to
here.
Blenheim, Ontario, had 8,500 people.
So that's where did you go to high school there?
I went to high school in Chatham. I went to a tech school, which is a trade school
In
Chatham. Yeah,
And you said there was 3 black guys went to school with you. Is that right?
3: Lonnie Brown, Jake Bayless, and Fergie Jenkins. And I played hockey. I ran track, played basketball. Jake Bayless played hockey, didn't run track, but Lonnie Brown ran cross country. But we were athletes. And I think the biggest thing is I wanted to excel. If I could make a varsity team, as long as I had a B average, I could play on a varsity ball club or a hockey team.
So your
or
mom
whatever.
made sure you made your grades too.
Oh, she was a stickler.
She didn't like you playing hockey though?
Yeah, the hockey story is, and Kearney mentioned in his book, when I got hurt one afternoon, I got checked pretty hard, took a puck in the face, and my dad, after he brought me home, he says, "Your son got hurt again." I said, what, in what capacity? He said, "Well, check him out. He got 3 or 4 stitches in his eyebrow, and his lips were all swollen." She went, "Son, I don't think this game is for you," like that. And I went, "Why, Mom?" She says, "Well, there's only 2 black things on the ice, you and the puck." But and I ended up playing more baseball. But it was just the fact that I thought it was a really unique situation where she said that. I don't think this game is for you, son.
People
Hockey
are
players
so
are-
much more sensitive today.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And I think that's bad for our country. Way too
Well,
much sensitivity.
You know, in Canada, we didn't have any problem with prejudice, at least in my little hometown, because there was a lot of black families, and my mother's family came into Canada through the Underground Railroad. And my first wife, her descendants were Josiah Henson, was one of the pioneers that started Uncle Tom's Cabin, and They lived in a little town called Dresden, Ontario.
Okay.
Now, what was it? Your grandfather or your grandmother that came up via the Underground Railroad?
It was my grandmother.
Your grandmother did.
And their last name was Lucas.
Lucas.
And their descendants were Van Dykes.
Oh, wow.
Van Dykes and Van Duzens, and they were Dutch. And I tell people all the time I'm Dutch. And they go, get the hell out of here. You're not Dutch.
So you played a little bit of basketball. You played in the Harlem Globetrotters.
Played 3 seasons with them.
How does a guy from Dresden become a Harlem Globetrotter?
Well, Joe Enzavino was the marketing individual with the Globetrotters. They had a downtown office in Chicago on Michigan Avenue. And I just got through winning 20 games that first season in 1967.
With the Cubs.
With the Cubs. And he showed up with a $500 3-piece suit, walking down basically the left field line. And I said to myself, and this guy's carrying a briefcase, I said, I wonder who has a paternity suit. They're going to try to get somebody. this guy's waving. And Rich Nye standing beside me. I said, Rich, he might want you, dude. You're a carouser. And then he said, hey, Fergie, I want to talk to you.
You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. So I negotiate. I go over, and he basically said, I'm a representative for the Harlem Globetrotters. And want to know if you're going to go back to Canada. And I said, well, yeah, I play on a 10-month visa. So I'm going back in October. And he said, well, we start touring the 17th of October in Montreal. That's our first city. Then we go to Sherbrooke, and we're working our way down to Three Rivers, all the way down through Ottawa in Ontario, and then basically down around my hometown, Chatham. And he said, would you like to tour a couple of dozen games, make X amount of dollars? We'd like you to be the pitcher in the skit in the third quarter every night that gives up the home run ball to Meadowlark Lemon. I said, hey, I've done that for years. I don't mind it. Now he's hitting the basketball. But they had a session where they'd come home before the season was over. I had an off day, went to work out with them, and they found out I could play a little basketball. But the nice thing about it is that the Globetrotters, had a ball player enter their world because of the fact they were entertainers, the basketball players and entertainers, and I was a ball player entering a basketball world, and it was fun, and I enjoyed the 3 seasons I played with them, with Meadowlark, Curly Neal, Leon Hilliard, Jackie Jackson, Nate Branch. There was so many guys. The one individual I thought was Hallie Bryant, was an All-American Indiana. Hallie Bryant, that name. He could have played in the NBA. Connie Hawkins played with the Globetrotters, ABA, NBA. Will Chamberlain played in the offseason in Europe when he played with them. Yeah. So I consider myself pretty lucky to have an opportunity to,
Did
as a
you
ball
get to play
player,
a lot?
I played the third quarter every night, 15 minutes. Bob Gibson played in 64. There's been 4 or 5 ball players, Hall of Famers. Ernie Banks toured with them. Bob Gibson. Myself, and Lou Brock. But he didn't play in the game. He ran lines before the game and sat on the bench, and then they introduced him during the game as it went on.
Was the traveling with the Globetrotters worse than it was in the majors, or was it better?
It was a little different. You were like the Pied Piper showing up to these cities. Incredible. They had a big, long bus with the Harlem Globetrotters written on it. The team that we played with the Washington Generals, they had their own bus. But when we went into a city and pulled into a small hotel or in a big city, all of it, we're taking our equipment off. And we had to take our own equipment off. And basketballs and uniforms and everything, And people were going, you're with the Globetrotters? I said, yeah. Aren't you Jenkins? Yeah. Well, I'm touring with them. Only 3 months out of the year, October, November, and December, and I started working out in January for getting ready for spring training.
So you were just a natural athlete. I mean,
I don't know if I was natural.
He's a scratch golfer. He just told me yes. He's an athlete.
I mean, everything that you touch. I mean, does it come easy to you?
Well, the 3 sports really. Hockey was my first sport, and then basketball. Baseball was my third sport.
And that's what you excelled in.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
How does a guy that throws the ball like you did, all the complete games, Hall of Famer, how'd you get your first baseball? How did they draft you? How did they find you?
No, I wasn't drafted. I was signed out of high school. Gene DeJura through the advice of Jerry McCaffrey, was my English teacher at this tech school at CVS. He got a hold of Gene. They went to college together in Windsor, Ontario, University of Windsor. Said that you ought to take a look at this young fella. I'm 15 years old, playing hockey in the winter, basketball, baseball only in the summer. Played about 25, 30 games at Sandlot baseball. And I was a first baseman.
Weren't even a pitcher.
No, I wasn't a pitcher. I didn't start pitching until I was 16. And Gene DeJura came out to one of the hockey games and seen me playing hockey. And I got into a little skirmish in one of the corners. And after the game's over, he says, "Why are you so violent?" I said, "As a defenseman, you got to be able to let that other team know, hey, if you're coming to score on my goalie, I'm letting you know I'm out there." So he took it in a kind of a grain of salt, said, "Oh, okay," because I got a couple of roughing penalties. But the thing is, that summer, he seen me throw in infield practice at first base. And he wanted to know, why haven't I tried to pitch? I said, no, we have pitchers on our team. We had Matt Kundle, Jack Howe, I think Larry Myers, and Dennis Roebuck, 4 guys. And I said, no, I want to play first base. I want to play all the games. And he only played 25 games.
Right.
But then we get in the playoffs, OBA finals, I might play another 10 or 12 games at first base. But it kind of changed my attitude on a position.
So you were 50. You're 6'5"? Is that how tall you are?
6'4", 6'4", almost 6.
How tall were you at? How big were you at 15?
Probably 6'3".
Wow.
About 145, 150 pounds.
So he sees a 6'3", 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Getting rowdy on the hockey rink, and that sparks his interest enough.
Well, the biggest thing is he, from the information that Jerry McCaffrey gave him, and he had seen me play a little basketball, that I was a decent athlete, and he said the potential part of it, he didn't think that I could cover the situation of being a pitcher. And I told him, I said, hey, I enjoy throwing the ball, and that's all I know. So he taught me a windup, a shortstop, taught me how to a windup, and taught me how to pitch. Basically the Philadelphia organization sent him information on basically learning how to pitch. And within 2 seasons, I'd thrown a no-hitter, a couple of good playoff games, and now I have the Tigers looking at me, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Boston, and the Chicago Cubs, but I end up signing with the Phillies.
And that's fascinating, too, because if you look at today's attitude towards baseball, it's let's get the kid when he's 9 years old, let's get him on a mound as much as he can. And
I think you burn him out.
Absolutely.
So when you graduated high school, you'd signed with Philadelphia already?
Right, yeah.
And so did you go straight to wherever they're...
I went to Class D ball.
Where was that at?
It was in Miami, Florida.
And
it was
that
like
was,
the lowest rung
as
on the
low
ladder.
as you could get.
Yeah,
What, D-ball was?
Yeah, it's the lowest rung on the ladder. The Phillies had 13 minor league teams. They had 4 D teams, a couple of B and C, 1A, or maybe 2 A's, 1 AAA, and then big leagues. 13 teams.
So traveling in Class D, was that about like being a Harlem Globetrotter?
Traveling on the bus.
Yeah. So
Trailways bus in Florida.
how long were you in Class D?
I was there 6 weeks. When I signed, it was mid-July. I didn't get a chance to graduate because I'd already signed and gone.
And you were 18 years old.
18. And then the next year, they went to A-ball, Miami, and I spent almost 2.5, 3 months there. Then they pushed me up to AA because I signed what they call a progressive bonus. If you stay 90 days in A-ball, they give you $1,000. If you stay 90 days in AA, you get $2,500. If you stay 90 days in AAA, you get $5,000.
So they made sure you didn't.
Yeah, right. I was very fortunate. I got every bonus.
So you got your bonus money.
Yeah, I got
and
my
that was a
bonus
lot of
money.
money. And what
Oh,
year
yeah.
was this?
Well, I signed in 62.
So in 1963, you're making what?
I'm making $400 a month.
$400 a month. But that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, $400 a month.
Were you? You were comfortable on $400 a month back then?
No.
No?
There's a few times I had to send home for money. Hey, Mom, I think I need $20, $30. I can't get a
Well,
mail order.
and you've got to ask him, too, when he was, 21, you were playing in Nicaragua in the winter.
Yeah. And I made good money playing Nicaragua. I was making $1,000 a month in Nicaragua, and in AAA, I was making like $850. So I was making more money.
You stayed enough time in Nicaragua that you've got the accent when you talk that
You know
way.
how to
Is that
pronounce
right?
it.
Yeah, right.
So what was it like down there?
Nicaragua? Oh, They had machine guns on the top of the dugout steps.
Good-looking women, though?
This was just before the revolution.
They have good-looking women down there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. South America,
What was the
especially
thinking?
Central America, beautiful women.
What was the thinking to go down there to
Get paid.
hone your
Well, the
craft?
Phillies wanted me to get some extra playing time. And I had only got maybe 120, 130 innings in that first year in Class D ball. So I got another probably 85 to 90 working on certain pitches, amount awareness.
Well, and the other thing about winter ball, I spent 2 winters in Mexico, is it's a whole different world. You aren't nursed along. You either produce or you go home. So it's a whole different world, and they are balls to the wall baseball fans, and they're gonna win. And so if you can produce, you're good. But it's not the coddling you get in the minor leagues.
No.
So when you're down there, they're loaning you to a team in Nicaragua.
Definitely, yes.
But Nicaragua pays you.
Oh, yeah, Nicaragua pays me.
So you're making $12,000 to be down there
in
3 months.
Cordovas. They pay in Cordovas.
That's the money.
And
down
in
there.
Mexico, I think you get pesos, right? But the thing is, I was down there as an what do they call it when they have players that come in to play, U.S. players.
A guest player.
No, I'm trying to think of the word.
I know
they're only
Mexico,
allowed 5 players.
Right. In Mexico, you could have 5 American ringers. The
Yeah.
other 20 had to be Mexican nationals.
Right. Yeah.
So is that way in Nicaragua also?
Same thing. Yeah.
So you're one of
winter ball.
they bring you down there to be a pitcher.
Right. Yeah. There was I think 4 or 5 of us. Alex Johnson was sent down there, and I think Grant Jackson. And I'm not sure the other 2 Americans are from other ball clubs. But the thing that really helped me, and Kearney can attest to this too, when you have the affiliation pitching coach down there with you, helping you. I had Cal McClish was the Philadelphia coach. We had Grant Jackson.
Big time famous coach.
We had Dave Bennett, Rick Wise, Grant Jackson, and myself.
Getting one-on-one, basically.
Yeah, and in the 1963, of the winter of 63, he taught me a slider. Well, he showed me the grip and wanted me to try this. You know, I threw it like a cutting pitch. In 64, it got even better. 65, I made the big leagues.
So
down there, the winter leagues were like a strong AA league as far as talent.
Oh, really? So it wasn't just like a beer league. Or,
No,
it was something
It was serious baseball.
baseball.
Well, the second year I was down there, Roberto Clemente played for San Juan, and Orlando Cepeda played for Santurce. They had Perez, Gonzalez, a lot of big Latin stars. Louis Tiant. There was guys that played in the big leagues.
The Latin stars, you played winter ball.
Make money.
Down there to play money, to make money, but you also played because you were a national. They expected you to play.
Yeah.
Right. And they had machine guns on the dugouts.
This was in Nicaragua.
Right.
This was just before the revolution in the winter of 63.
How's a pitcher supposed to get ready under those circumstances?
Oh, man, it's kind
Quickly.
I mean, there's 17 and 18-year-olds, as old as I am, with these Russian machine guns.
Yeah.
When the inning's over, they stood on top of the dugout. When the game started, they'd sit in the stands. When the inning's over, they get back up on top. You know, they were just afraid of something going on.
Wasn't nothing going to happen with that shit going on.
No, really. But
and tell them how the guards at the bank.
I know when you'd go home, a lot of times you'd walk back, because I was in Nicaragua. I stayed at downtown Managua Hotel. When you'd walk through town, either at the post office or the bank, an official building, these young kids are 16, 17, sitting on machetes.
The guards.
And there were 4 or 5 of them at each location. And they were just kids with these machetes, are about a good 18, 19 inches long with a handle, and they got them wrapped up in newspaper underneath their legs. And they were the guards.
And that was the guard for the bank.
So
does somebody from the organization like sit you down like, okay, now listen, you're going here and you need to understand a few things.
Oh, yeah.
Like
they gave me a bit of a warning.
I don't know that I could do that, even with a warning.
But no, they let me know this was the situation.
Right.
And I couldn't speak any Spanish.
Right.
I'm 18 years old.
Are you given a translator or a handler or anything?
I had a roommate that was Latin.
Okay.
He played with the Washington organization. I I learned a few Latin words. The first couple of weeks was a little tough trying to order food.
I bet, yeah.
And I always waited for him to get up. He got up at noon all the time. This guy's like, I'm 18.
Yeah.
He's like 26, 27. He slept all day. He got up at noon to go to the ballpark, and I'm up at 8 o'clock. I want to get some breakfast.
You want to eat.
Some huevos.
Yeah,
Rancheros
And I know
or something.
Paquito Spanish. So what did when you get to Philly and you make the big leagues?
Right.
Did you get called up and make the big leagues in the fall in the like September, October? Or did
Yeah.
you wait till
I was a September call up.
you was a September call up? Was that a
1965.
whole life changing deal for you?
Oh yeah, big time. Frank Lucchese at the time was the manager. He's since passed away. He lived in Colleyville, right in Texas. He gave the information about 5 guys that are coming up: Billy Sorrell, Alex Johnson, Adolfo Phillips, Grant Jackson, and Fergie Jenkins. And he said, "Hey, you got to report to Philadelphia. We'd like you there the next day. Got a plane ticket." Well, all of us showed up at the airport there.
Are you leaving
Little
Double
Rock.
A? Did you go from Double A to
No,
majors?
Little Rock.
So Triple A.
Triple A. Left from Little Rock, maybe early that morning, Philadelphia. I get there, stayed at the Sheraton Hotel on Walnut Street, downtown Philadelphia. Didn't have a vehicle, so we had to wait for whoever had a vehicle or the bus to come pick us up at the hotel, go to Connie Mack Stadium.
That's what I appreciate so much about baseball. And I'm not a diehard baseball fan, but you guys cut your teeth. It's not like you. There were so many different steps that you had to get before you got to go to the show.
Oh yeah, the biggest thing is I at one time said I got to jump 12 organizations,
Right.
12
Right.
teams, because they send you, if you do well in Miami, they might send you to Bakersfield, California, or they might send you to Spartansburg. And Double A was Chattanooga, and I was very fortunate. I went from D-ball to A, which was back in Miami again. Didn't stay there that long. Then they shoved me to Chattanooga, where Andy Semenick, my former manager, with D-ball. So I knew him. He knew me. So I went to Double A, and I only stayed there, a matter of almost the end of the season. Then they gave me an opportunity to go to Triple A, which was Buffalo at the time. So I jumped around that one year. Then the next year, I went to big league camp. I started off in Little Rock. They sent me back to Double A for about 2 weeks, back to Little Rock, and then the season's over. And in '65, I started off in Little Rock. They didn't like players of color there. There was 4 players of color. Was the '64? Excuse me, Dick Allen, Richard Quito, Marcelin Lopez, and Fergie Jenkins. And then in '65, when I went there, we had Don Perkins, Alex Johnson, Adolfo Phillips. There was a half a dozen guys of color, and we played there just briefly.
Do you remember that old stadium, the Travelers? They were called, weren't they?
The Arkansas Travelers. We played in the fairgrounds.
And well, I remember the Double A stadium backed up to the expressway in right field. So if you hit it over the fence in right field, it bounced on the expressway.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went to, when you were in Buffalo, that was close to home then.
Yeah, my parents came up there to watch me. The old War Memorial Stadium.
And then so you get to Philadelphia, you get there in September to call up. Did you get in the first game you were at, or
No, it was like the third game. We're playing the Cardinals, and Jim Bunning is matched with Bob Gibson, and they took him out 6 2/3, and I pitched right through to the 10th, and I beat Bob Gibson in relief.
That's a hell of a
my
deal right
first
there.
win. Phoned my dad right after the game. I'm 21 years old. I'm happy that
And you beat
I
Bob
won my
Gibson.
first major league ball game. First game I pitched in, I won the ball game.
So you played against Lou Brock.
Brock, Flood, all these guys were there. McCarver, I think Shannon was there at the time. Ken Boyer was on that team, but he didn't play. But I couldn't think of who the other outfielders were. But because Shannon played left field, Flood's in center, Brock's in right. First base, Bill White was their first baseman.
Did you talk to who was you pitching against? I've lost it.
Cardinals.
Yeah, no. Who's the pitcher that you beat?
Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson. Yeah.
No, he didn't talk to anybody.
He didn't speak to anybody.
No, he didn't talk to me for sure, because I'm just a rookie.
Did he speak to you after that much? Or
No,
was he,
I didn't get a chance to talk to Bob Gibson for like 2 years after that. He didn't fraternize with players.
Not at all.
And not of his own hitters. But he'd take ground balls at third base on the third base side as where the visiting team came out, and you'd run out there and say, "Hey, Gibby, how you doing?" "Yeah, all right, see you later." He didn't talk to
Not much of a
rookies.
conversation.
No.
Well, and you didn't mess with Gibson because he was a Golden Glove boxer. Yeah, Gibby
your
was
ears
not
off.
one. If he wanted you to go away, you went away.
So how much of American politics had you heard about? Being from Canada, did you know that you were coming into the civil rights era?
Oh, yeah.
So you knew coming
Oh yeah,
in. You were
definitely.
Like, oh, shit.
Well, Freddie Mason was a traveling player with the Philadelphia Phillies, and he had kind of told us basically, this is where you do, this is what you don't do, things like that. So he said you can't go to Miami Beach, players of color, and if you want to eat late, you got to go to the Trailway stations. There wasn't many places you could eat.
So
There wasn't
Miami
even many
Beach.
places to eat anyways,
We
though.
we stayed at the place called the Sir John Hotel, and they used to have a place called the Sir John Night Beat, and they would leave or get a cooperation to keep the kitchen open. Our game started at 7:05, and we played the old Miami Stadium. By the time we got there, most of us traveled on the bus, so we'd catch a bus to take us right down back to the hotel. It might be 11:30. And we'd hope that the kitchen stayed open so we'd get something to eat.
I read a book about, it was a Secret Service book about 7 presidents. One guy was a Secret Service agent from before John F. Kennedy up until Reagan or Clinton or somewhere, and he was talking about that. He was in Dallas when Kennedy got shot, but he said, we stayed in Fort Worth because Kennedy was in Fort Worth before he was in Dallas that night, and he said, at dark, there's nowhere to eat. There wasn't Whataburgers, there wasn't IHOPs, there wasn't restaurants open 24 hours a day back then.
Fast foods, they weren't open.
Cafes
right.
closed at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and you were done. That was it until the next morning.
Really? You know
So-
what? Same situation in Miami. Even though it was a 24-hour city, there's only so many places you could go. And we stayed what they call Little Cuba, which was basically a Latin black neighborhood. And you might get the odd restaurant to stay open late, but very seldom.
So you knew kind of what was going on in America at the time. You weren't
Oh,
just
yeah.
thrust into this situation like, what the fuck? Like, what the shit is, what's going on down
Yeah,
here?
I knew. I was kind of prepared for what was going to be the situation, but when you're there
Yeah.
and it actually happens to you, you're going, damn.
Where did your first year, how many games you win your first full season?
6.
Your first full season?
No. My first 6 weeks, I won 6 games. First full season, I won 18
So you were a starter. And when did Philadelphia trade you to Chicago?
in 1966.
Why'd they trade you?
I'm not even sure because they wanted a center fielder. They wanted Adolfo Phillips, and they wanted John Herrnstein because he'd really played well day baseball. Ernie Banks is 38 years old, or 37, 38, so they needed a first baseman. And I was a pitcher, and they had seen me pitch, no doubt, in the minor leagues. So when they made the deal, it was Larry Jackson and Bob Buell for Phillips, Herrnstein, and Jenkins. 5-player deal.
So you got to play with Ernie Banks.
I roomed with him the last 3 years he played.
What was he like?
Great gentleman.
Mr. Cub.
Never talked about himself. Always about baseball, about improving the team. Just about you're now a Chicago Cub. Really react to the fact that you're playing in one of the best cities in America, Chicago, and for the best team. The White Sox were there too, but
Right.
they were always supposedly the American League was a second class team, but the Cubs were always number one.
And Ernie Banks was one of the most well-liked athletes in Chicago
He
history.
was one of the first players of color to play with the Chicago
And they loved
team.
him.
Yeah, they loved him. And we were in last place. We were picked out of 10 teams. We were picked to be 8th, but we ended up being 10th.
So
And it took a while for us to get out of the cellar. We were better in '67, much better in '68, and we were picked to win the series or basically your division in '69. But we got overtaken by the Mets.
So Ernie Banks was thought of as probably outside of Michael Jordan and maybe Walter Payton, the greatest guy that ever come out of Chicago to play professional sports
Right.
in Chicago.
Yeah, he played with the Negro League with the Kansas City Monarchs at 17, 18, and got his contract got bought by the Cubs and ended up being Mr. Cub.
Well, and the interesting thing is there's only one bronze statue in front of Cub Stadium.
Yeah, and that's Ernie Banks.
And
Ron Santo and Billy Williams are on Sheffield on the back end of the stadium with Harry Carey, and now they're going to unveil a statue of me May 20th.
That's awesome.
I saw that on your
Of this
Twitter.
year, yeah.
They've been. How long has that process taken them?
It's been probably in the process maybe about a year.
Okay.
Have you been to Chicago lately?
I've been there a couple of times to see the statue, and it's basically done.
They're having a lot of trouble around Wrigleyville, don't they now?
The construction part of they put new things here, there. They put a new marquee up again.
The crime's not real bad right there like it is on the south side?
Not really, no, not on the north side. It's completely changed now with all the hotels they have around there and new establishments. But they're going to erect supposedly all 4 of the statues in a park off Clark Street.
That'd be awesome. You know, it's weird, too, because the first time I ever seen Wrigley Field, I'm just like driving down a neighborhood and like, oh, damn, there's a baseball field there.
Yeah, that's it.
Same with like Fenway.
Is the Cubby Hole still there?
Oh, yeah, they had 3 or 4 popular restaurants still there. But the nice thing about it, they got Bernie's and they got Murphy's, which are basically bar grills. People love to go there. I'm trying to think of there's 2 of them on Addison, too. I can't think of the names of them. But it's really, really a fun city.
Me and my wife went to Fenway and went to a game 2 falls ago. And it was a bucket list to go to Fenway to a game and stuff, which I love Fenway Park. Now, you played with the Red Sox, right?
Played 2 years with them. Yeah.
Did you like living there? And playing there?
I lived in Quincy one year and Stoughton the next year. And I really enjoyed playing. It's a small ballpark. It's almost like Wrigley Field. You get used to playing and understanding this is a small yard. Can't afford to make mistakes.
So that's it right there. That's
your
your
statue.
Statue right
Yeah.
there. And it's taken about a year to do all. What is that? That's just clay right there. That
It's
they're
clay.
molding
That's the
it?
clay mold, and that's the Sports Illustrated cover.
Oh, okay. That's behind it, and that's kind of what they're.
Well,
going off of.
the on the other side to the right. That's the Sports Illustrated cover.
So do they bring you up there just to kind of look at it?
Look at it. They took some more photographs of me bending over. What would the back of the uniform look like?
Oh, okay.
So basically, that was the front side of it. But I'm throwing a change up right there.
Tell me what that glow in the bottom of the picture is.
It's your bald head.
That's me. It's me looking at the photo, right?
Now,
photo.
I want to ask you about another Chicago icon.
Yeah.
Carey. Was he? Did he drink during all the games?
Yeah, they called him the Bud Man for a reason.
That's right.
He couldn't pronounce names after the 6th inning.
He couldn't. He was slurring words.
Oh, he was incredible. Yeah, he had a tough time. You know, your own team. He couldn't pronounce Ryan Sandberg.
Ryan Sandberg.
And you know, going back to Boston, Fenway was my favorite park as far as the epitome of baseball.
Yeah.
You know, a small ballpark, the nostalgia there, and being in the bullpen, it was a whole different situation than it was in the dugout. In the bullpen, you were right up into right field. You were part of the stands. And it wasn't unusual on a Sunday afternoon to have the fans back there offering you joints through the fence and such. And over there, they always had the rowdy crew in right field, and they hired the Boston College linemen as the ushers. And they were called the Blue Coats because they had a blue blazer on. And there was always a fight. Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon in the stands in right field, and the Blue Coats would go in there grabbing people and just throwing them out of the way to get to the fights. The fights did not last long when the Blue Coats showed up.
Boston's a cool town, and what I thought was really neat about Boston is when you go to a Red Sox game, it reminds me of Friday night high school football in Texas. As close to that kind of atmosphere as I've ever seen with a baseball. I've never seen that at a Ranger game, and I was at a Ranger game when they clinched the first playoff game. Well, Texas Ranger style, it was because they lost, but California lost that night too. But the Red Sox games remind me of high school football Friday night in Texas.
Well, yeah, it's in a neighborhood similar to Wrigley Field.
And there's just so much there. It's got an energy to it, unlike any other pro baseball place I've ever been.
The thing about Boston too was like the Rangers, the old Ranger Stadium. If the opposition made a good play in New York, they'd boo you and throw shit at you. In Boston, they would give you a standing ovation if the opposition made a good play.
Really?
That's a cool.
So there was an appreciation for
There
the visiting
was.
team that there wasn't.
There was an appreciation of the game.
Just good baseball.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're knowledgeable. I think the number one thing is fans are really knowledgeable in certain cities. They were knowledgeable in Philadelphia. You know, they knew the game.
Are they that hard of fans to?
They were tough. If you didn't play well, yeah, they let you know.
Philly was tough. My first game in Philly, we're down by 2 runs. And 9th inning, Schmidt's up. Guy on second. He drives a ball that hit 4 inches below the top of the fence in left center field. And they boo him because they didn't go out.
Didn't go out of the park.
It was like you figured, oh, my Lord, what have I gotten into? And then I get into my first game after rehabbing my destroyed elbow. Pitched 1 inning, gave up 7. Not a good intro. I was loved in Philly.
They get damn good Philly cheesesteaks there.
That was one good thing to me. The biggest thing in Philly was a restaurant called the Bookbinder.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
right downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So who's your hardest out, Fergie?
Probably, I'd say Roberto Clemente, number 21 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. The second tough out, probably Willie McCovey with the Giants. And then you could put Pete Rose in there and
What
put
names?
Rod Carew.
What names though? I mean, you're talking about
These guys are hitters.
Best of the best.
Is Clemente in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Yeah.
But he died in a tragic plane crash in the middle of his prime, right?
72. Yeah, he was 37 years old.
And has exactly 3,000 hits.
His last home run,
You gave it up to him?
he hit it off me. Almost hit the foul pole, left field in Wrigley Field. But, I mean, what a great ball player. I mean, he did everything well, and he was basically a silent leader on that Pittsburgh ball club. He didn't say much, but he did all his performances. That was the number one item.
And an unbelievable gun in right field.
He had a great arm. I mean, he was a 5-tool player. Hit for average, hit for home runs, for power, could steal bases, had a great arm, and a great attitude.
You know, I didn't think about that until now, but the Pirates won the World Series in '76, right? Was that when Willie Stargell and them were there?
Yeah, that was
We Are Family.
That's We Are Family.
Yeah, that was in '76, right?
Yeah.
And so Clemente would have been part of that.
Yeah.
Or he probably would have retired by then, wouldn't he have? He was getting down at his age.
Yeah, he probably. What year was that again?
Was 76 is the year they won
No, 71, 79 are there.
Because he died
79.
72.
Okay, 79 is when they won the series,
Yeah.
when We Are Family, right?
Yeah, it was Willie Stargell.
Yeah, and all
And it was
them.
Sengian and a few
Yes.
other guys. See, he was MVP of 1970, I think, when they beat Baltimore.
I can look it up.
Look it up. I'm not sure. Pretty sure.
But what a list. Willie McCovey. I mean, that's
Guys were dangerous. I mean, they were really good hitters.
well, you're
So-
79 years old too, so it was a
Right.
long time ago when you
Yeah,
played.
right.
But I mean,
Yeah.
that's talking about lapse in history. You know, great players. You know, like when Kern was talking about, he struck out Hank Aaron. I'd have that tattooed on my fucking forehead.
Yeah, right. Well, Hank Aaron was a tough out. I pitched 11 seasons against him. Only gave up 2 home runs to him. You know, which is I think,
Well, to me,
outstanding.
if I had something tattooed from Henry, it would be when he fooled me in spring training and stood on first and went like this. I mean, to me, that was bigger than striking him out. It's just being had.
He was most valuable player in 66, Roberto Clemente.
Yeah, 66.
So 66. So he'd had to play a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Did you ever take any of the joints that were offered to you? Because marijuana, is it still illegal in baseball?
Not during the game.
You look at that, and I mean, you've had your elbow redone. You've had, what all surgeries have you had?
I've had 2 brand new knees.
2 brand new knees.
6
What
years
about your
ago.
shoulders?
No, my shoulders are good.
You
Just
never
my
had arm
shoulders,
problems at all?
I can't throw anymore. I've got what they call a locked shoulder, and I can't lift it any higher.
But
than
you
that.
never had to have, when you were playing, you never
I
had
never
arm
had a sore arm.
problems.
Never had a sore arm.
I'll tell you, one of his best surgery stories is one from his wife. Fergie gets a vasectomy, okay?
Uh-oh.
And I'm talking to his wife, and she says, "What do you think, Sun-Kissed?" And I thought, Sun-Kissed? Why are you calling Fergie Sun-Kissed? I said, "What's this shit all about?" She said, "He had a vasectomy. All juice, no seed, Sun-Kissed."
Has Kern ever embarrassed you?
A few times.
Tell him the story about you taking him to dinner. That is a great
Well,
story.
no, we had him over the first year in Texas, 79.
Yeah.
You know, met Fergie. We really got along, and we're renting a house, and I've got my 2 sons with us, and Fergie's got a couple daughters, and so I invite Fergie and his wife over, and it's middle of the summer, July, we're in the backyard, and I've got the barbecue going, and we got everything ready, and not thinking about it, I serve ribs and watermelon.
Those are good things to eat.
Oh, my Lord. And afterwards, my wife says, do you realize what you did? And I said, yeah, I invited Fergie and his wife over. You realize what you ate? I said, yeah, we had some good ribs. She said, and watermelon. I went, oh, shit.
I bet it didn't offend you at all, did it?
No, it didn't affect
Shit's
me.
good.
Because we're both Canadians.
Yeah.
Wife and I. We thought nothing of it.
But can you imagine you get offended by having food given to you that's good?
No, not a bit. Not a bit.
Especially when there's no malice. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
let's
right.
have a good meal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I knew Kearney on a player situation. Everybody's going to dig each other from
Right.
time to time.
Right.
And I didn't think anything of it. And the wife said, when we were going home, we had what? I said, did you like it? Fine.
Then what's the problem?
Do you think players today are too damn sensitive about shit?
Oh, I know they are.
It's ridiculous the way they are. They live, and you guys are ex-baseball players, and y'all were very blessed. But these guys today are very, very blessed on what they make and
Financially.
stuff. And they can't even have a good time in the locker room like you guys did. The stuff y'all did in the locker room, someone would get their feelings hurt, and it'd be on the media, and they'd want something done all the time.
Yeah.
And they are ruining the way that they've made it so hard on themselves because they do not know how to relax and have fun.
Right. Our locker room was half the size of this room for 25 guys in Wrigley Field. And the football team in the winter months played in Wrigley Field.
The Bears
The
did?
Bears played. And they had to dress 53 players in that room.
same locker
So in that locker room. And so I know they had to dress in shifts. Because it was tough for 25 guys and 4 or 5 coaches. Yeah. So I know it was tough for them.
Did you know Gail Sayers then?
Oh, yeah, I knew Gail and quite a few of the other guys. I mean, there was so many guys that you got a chance to rub shoulders with in the off season. We do the banquets and things like that. But other than that,
back in our time frame too, a lot of the guys hunted and fished. They loved it. Fergie was huge growing up, duck hunting, geese hunting. He had bird dogs. I mean, and so we interfaced that way a lot with the hunting and fishing, which they don't do now. So we spent a lot of time off season. I've had Piglet out here, Fergie, Witter, some of the guys, and we just spent a lot of time together.
Right.
See, we had the same type of wants, and we understood that this is something that we enjoy doing, and we just collectively got together. I think that made the camaraderie a lot easier, and the clubhouses were smaller. And the nice thing about it, guys fraternized. We went out to eat together.
Right.
You get 4 or 5 guys, maybe 10 guys. Let them know about this great restaurant. Let's go there. Rana Japan, that was a restaurant that Kearney and I used to always go to. As soon as we got to Chicago, we had Medich. We'd have
Matt Rack.
Matlack. Matlack. I don't think Sundberg went with it. But there was mostly pitchers.
Right.
Would go, and we'd eat at Rana Japan's. And I knew the owner. And the nice thing about it, and Kearney mentioned it one time, we stayed there. Closing time's like 10 o'clock. And he came up to me and he says, "Hey, Fergie, I give you plum wine if you leave."
About 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right. But the nice thing about it, there was always a restaurant that we fraternized. And,
Right.
and certain guys always got together.
So we'll probably piss some people off in Chicago when I ask this, but which place has best pizza, Giordano's or Malnati's?
Ooh, probably Giordano's.
You like Giordano's better?
And they have Uno pizza place, too.
I didn't go there.
Uno's is right down on Ontario Street.
What about Regina's in Boston? Have you had that?
Never eaten there, no.
One thing about Fergie is he was so famous in Chicago from his years there with Texas. One day we're playing in Chicago, White Sox, of course, and Fergie says, "I'm going down, get a haircut. You want to come along?" So I said, "Sure, I'll come along." Well, we go into a part of Chicago I would have never gone by myself. And as Fergie walks
You're the only
down
white man there.
Yes.
That's right.
As we're walking down the street, everybody, Fergie, everybody knows Fergie. Everybody knows Fergie.
It's on 71st Street. It's in the black neighborhood.
And I'm invisible, okay? I'm totally invisible, as if I'm not there. And we walk into this guy to get a haircut, and he says, Fergie, great, sit down over here. And they're all clustered around Fergie, and I'm kind of laying back here trying to be invisible. And this guy had to be 6'8", 300 pounds, walked up to me and says, "You want a haircut?" Sure. Didn't care what I looked like. I just wanted to walk out of there alive.
You didn't get many haircuts back then either.
Oh, no. And we walk out. We walk down the street. I buy a set of dominoes. And I burnt my fingers when I picked them up. I mean, my Lord. And I was sticking in Fergie's back pocket. I was not going to get separated from Fergie.
So what is that like?
It was awesome.
What is that like going from Chicago, where baseball is a major sport and you're recognized everywhere, to going to Texas, where, you know, the Rangers aren't as big of a draw and you're having to reestablish yourself?
You know what really helped us was Billy Martin.
Really?
He was the manager. He got the job in that '74 season.
Andy don't know much about Billy Martin's past, I don't think, do you?
No.
Billy Martin was a manager. The first year he'd go with either Minnesota, Detroit, in the Yankees. He always won big, and then the controversial started about this, and this. So Billy Martin was the kind of manager that gave you the ball, and he expects you to do your job.
Okay.
As a hitter, he expects you to hit, do your job. Play the outfield, infield, whatever.
Controversy was everywhere he was at.
But Billy Martin was a player manager. And the owner of the team at the time was, I don't know if it was
Short or Corbett. I think it was Corbett.
Brad Corbett was the owner of the team.
You brought Brad up here deer hunting once, didn't you?
Brad's son.
Okay.
But, I mean, it was just the fact that people really enjoyed watching the Rangers play. That year I won 25 games. Mike Hargrove was a Rookie of the Year. Jeff Burroughs was MVP. Billy Martin was Manager of the Year. Out of all the awards, we won 4 major awards in baseball, and it really collected everybody at one point. Now we're Ranger fans. What's going to happen that next year?
Right.
You know, and Sundberg was the #1 catcher. I mean, there was just all of a sudden everything really clicked. And
This says here he assaulted Jim Brewer.
at one time, that was a long time ago.
Well, Billy Martin, you got to look at Billy. Billy was 5'10". Give him 2 beers, he's 6'7". No, I'm serious. You did not go out drinking with Billy Martin because you were going to be in a fight.
Didn't he punch George Steinbrenner?
Wouldn't surprise me.
And Steinbrenner owned the Yankees.
Right. I know who Steinbrenner is from Seinfeld.
That's right. Yeah.
He hired and fired him 5 different times.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere he went, but he won all the time.
Yeah. He won that series with Reggie Jackson at the 3 home runs.
He punched a
and
reporter.
Him and Reggie didn't like each other. Well, he did it. He punched the traveling secretary. We're at 30,000 feet on the plane.
Gee.
And all of a sudden, the captain comes on. Fellas, you're going to have to sit down back there. Because the stewardess went and told the captain, there's a fight back in the back. He's fighting with the traveling secretary, Billy Martin.
So, but you guys, you rallied around Billy Martin.
Billy
you
Martin,
felt like he had your back.
He did. I mean, he was a player manager. If he didn't like you, he was in your face.
Right.
And so I think that was the Brewer thing. He got into, and he was a few guys that he got in their faces because he let you know, hey, he hated shortcomings. And if you blame somebody else, he was on you.
Why was Reggie Jackson not liked more by other people, by the other players?
Well,
We was not in Reggie's vocabulary.
yeah, I mean, he was a one-player player for himself. And the funny thing happened, it was in Fenway Park. We're playing the Yankees. He went out to right field, didn't take sunglasses. High fly ball fell in, and Reggie didn't know where it was. 2 batters later, another ball falls in. He went out there, took Reggie Jackson out, and replaced him with Paul Blair on the field. And in the dugout, they're nose to nose. And Yogi Berra is he's a coach at the time.
There, yeah.
And he got in between Reggie and Billy Martin because I thought, sitting on the benches are not that far away, I thought for sure there was going to be a fight in the dugout.
So if Reggie Jackson would have been more of a team player, he had no telling what he'd done, but he was all about himself all the time.
Yeah, him and Thurman Munson didn't get along, and Greg Nettles. So there were certain guys that were part of the Yankees before Reggie got there. And now it's all of a sudden it's Reggie's show. He had that saying, I'm the stick that stirs the drink or something.
Yeah. Right. Mr. October, whatever he was.
Yeah.
So Thurman Munson got killed in a
Right.
plane crash. Jim, we asked about Pudge and Johnny Bench. Was Thurman Munson at that level of a catcher?
Thurman was, again, as a catcher, Thurman was a little guy. Thurman didn't have a great arm, but he had an unbelievable release to second. He threw a lot of people out. Thurman, at, say, 5'10", 180 pounds, would stand 5 foot up the third base line and challenge you to run over his ass
So
to
he was
get the home
old-fashioned.
plate.
Yeah.
Yes, he was, and he was the leader of the team, and he was like Yogi Bear. He was a bad ball hitter. The best place to pitch Thurman was right down the middle of the plate because he might miss it. Like Yogi, you throw a pitch over his head and he'll dub it off the right field wall. But he was just the type that everybody rallied behind, everybody respected. He was a quiet leader, but he was definitely the leader of that club.
Very well liked.
Yes,
and a good hitter.
Now,
Yeah.
question for you. Were you at the game when Jim Rice saved the little girl's life?
No, I wasn't there. No, I was there when Doc Bettich saved 2 individuals,
With
one in Baltimore and one in Texas. A guy was choking on his saliva, whatever he swallowed, saved his life in Baltimore. The next trip into Baltimore, they presented him with a Saver Award.
Is that why y'all called him Doc?
Yeah, well, he was studying to be a doctor.
Okay. Now, Jim,
In another situation, a young girl had gotten hit with a foul ball in the stands, and supposedly, her heart stopped, and he went over there and performed CPR and saved her life.
now Jim Rice, a girl got hit, and he went and got her and took her, and they took her to the hospital and saved her life. And I can't remember the story. I just read about it just recently.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure. I might not have been because I was only 2 years with the Boston team, 76 and 77.
Tell me, one of my favorite people, tell me about Bernie Carbo.
Bernie. Well, what story do you want to hear?
Tell him the story about bringing the purple ape on the plane with him.
Oh, see, Bernie was an individual that did some strange things, and he had a birthday gift. Somebody gave him a gorilla. He called it. I'm trying to think of the name, but he had a name for the gorilla, and he took him on a road trip. And Don Zimmer at the time didn't want this gorilla on the plane.
The manager.
And Bernie says, "Hey,
Like it's alive. It's a live gorilla.
No, it's
a statue.
Stuff.
Okay.
And it's our mascot. He
Okay.
called it the mascot. And
he even paid for the seat for it.
yeah, because a lot of times we fly commercial.
Right.
So he paid for the seat. They gave him a hard time. But Bernie was the kind of individual that if it was off the wall, he did it.
He was all about
Don
it.
Zimmer had a dress code. On the plane, going on the first road trip, you had to wear a coat and tie.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Lee and Bernie went out and bought members' jackets with golf shirts. I mean, they were just 2 guys that were a little different.
Yeah.
But in one sense, they were like 2 peas in a pod.
How does a manager, and I think about this today, you've got all these different personalities. These guys are at the top of their game. They are the best in the world at what they do. How in the hell do you manage that many personalities and get them to kind of coalesce? And you want them to kind of do that shit on the plane, and you want them to kind of toe the line. But at the same time, like, there are rules, and we're going to run it this way. I just can't imagine taking a bunch of you knuckleheads that are just athletic freaks and the best at what you do, and you're the best at what you do, and get them to kind of toe the line.
It all probably starts in spring training with some of the coaches. The manager really depends on a lot of the coaches for advice a lot of times. But when you think about winning as a unit, a lot of times out of 25 guys, only maybe 10 or 11 guys play.
Right.
So the other 10 or 12 other guys really don't mean much, but in certain situations to use them as a pinch runner, pinch hitter, or if somebody gets hurt, now they're in the starting lineup. But the nice thing about it, the camaraderie all starts in spring training.
Right.
With trades, new people on the ball club. And if you don't learn how to get together or play together, it's going to be a bad season because you're together almost 8 months of the season. 8 months.
Yeah,
well,
that's a long time.
and back in our time, it was very simple. They asked 3 things: show up on time, give 100% while you're there, and don't embarrass the ball club.
Yeah.
That's all they ask on our time frame of us. And the managers that let people be themselves ran the best. The people that tried to
Micromanage.
really put everybody in a box like Zimmer and such, there was a lot of opposition to it. The Yankees fought like hell,
Yeah.
but they won.
Yeah.
Was Zimmer? He was in baseball his whole life, wasn't he?
Yeah, he originally signed with the Cubs and played with the Dodgers, quite a few teams. But, I mean, he knew the game. I think he was a better coach than he was a manager. I only got in trouble with him one time. It was in 1977.
Tell me, does he look like a buffalo head?
No.
But Don Zimmer was.
Really?
See, what had happened, I got hurt in 76. I had an Achilles tear in Fenway Park. They took me off the field. It hurt September the 1st. I'm winning the ball game 4-0. And in the fifth inning.
You came in for a ground ball and stopped, didn't you?
I came in for a ground ball, and it went past me. So Cecil Cooper's playing first. I went to first base to cover. He throws me the ball, and boom, it split.
You
That
knew
was
right
it.
away?
Gone. My leg was gone, my right leg.
It's the most.
So-
I've tore
Jeff's
both
done it
mine. It's
twice.
horrible.
Oh, it's a terrible situation. I'm on the field, laying down with my uniform on. An ambulance comes. They pick me up with a gurney, put me in the ambulance, and go to some local clinic. And by the time we get there, we're in a traffic jam.
How old are you at the time?
I'm 33.
Okay.
And what happened, we're in the traffic jam, and my leg is starting to jump now. One of the technicians that's in the back of the ambulance, he straps my leg down, and it's throbbing pretty hard.
Right. And
I said, you don't want to see a grown man cry. I need a shot. I'm hurting here, and I'm starting to sweat.
Yeah.
I mean, sweat. And my hat's off. I'm in the uniform, and it's dirty. When I rolled on the ground, Fenway Park has dirt.
Yeah.
They don't really have good soil. It's dirt. So my uniform's dirty. I get to the clinic, and they want to x-ray my leg before they do anything. So this little technician, she's a little woman, tries to pick me up, put me on this table to x-ray my leg. They do 4 or 5 different shots of my leg. I'm sitting in a wheelchair waiting for the doctor to show up so I could basically get a shot to make my body stop hurting.
Right.
She says, Mr. Jenkins, I think we have to do some more x-rays.
Oh, shit.
And I went, what? I said, there's no way I can get up there. So she makes a phone call. This big Haitian guy comes up, picks me up. I mean, he was like 6'4", 300 pounds, picks me up, puts me on the table. We do some more x-rays. And doctor comes in after they're done, puts a needle in my arm. Oh, the pain went away. Okay. Now I'm in the hospital room the next day, 7 in the morning. I have a spinal. Boom. I get a brand new Achilles. They stapled it. Okay. I come back in the 77 season. I was the first player to wear running shoes on the field in spring training, and then during the season.
Spikes.
Not spikes. Workout. I was the opening day pitcher against Cleveland. In fact, that following year in 77. So now it's the 77 season. And we're playing pretty good baseball. Okay. I had a Playboy subscription that whole year in 76. When I left the team, they had in September, we had September, October, November, December, January, all the way. And all those subscriptions were sent to Boston. Okay. And you're going to get the story. Now it's spring training. All that stuff is sent to my locker in spring training. So I'm looking at December issue. This Haitian girl, all she has is on with a smile. Beautiful girl. You flip the pages over, all she had on was a smile. So I put her on top of my locker.
Yeah.
Okay. And the back of the locker was Bill Lee, Bernie Carble, Fergie Jenkins, Rick Wise, and Jim Willoughby. 5 of us.
All sickies.
Yeah. Well,
All sickos.
Yeah, right. We're all sick. So halfway through the season, well, before the season All-Star break started, whenever the team went on the road, I covered her with a towel because they had visitors that come in the locker room.
Right.
People would want to see Fenway Park.
And you're being respectful.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the clubhouse kid said Don Zimmer tore her down. So I didn't let it go. I didn't mind. Right after the All-Star break, because we're in first place.
Is Zimmer the manager or the coach?
Yeah, he's the manager. He's the manager. We're in first place at the time. And in the Boston Globe, there's an insert in the Boston Globe of Don Zimmer with a big chew, big head, pencil, arms, legs, and body. So I blew it up, put it above my locker, and wrote Buffalo Head underneath it. And I know he had to see it.
Yeah.
So we were the Buffalo Head gang. That's how it all started.
How did he take that? Did he get his feathers ruffled?
I didn't get back. He didn't say anything to me, but it stayed the whole year.
Yeah.
When the last road trip we were on, somebody got it. I don't know who got it, but I put it in my book.
That'd be fascinating.
Somebody
to see
punched
now.
his ass, didn't they? Didn't he? There was
Pedro
Martinez.
Yeah.
He didn't punch him. When he ran out,
he
he
ran him down.
He got into a fight, the team, and Zimmer charged, a 70-year-old charging a guy that's 25 years old, and Pedro just pushed him out of the way.
Yeah, but at that time Zimmer was coaching with the Yankees. Then,
Yes,
right?
right. Yeah, he was a little different guy. I mean, he to me, I think in some cases misunderstood, but in some cases nobody liked him. Bill Lee called him a gerbil.
Well, he had these big puffy cheeks. And, yeah.
He got hit with a line drive in the dugout. The next day he shows up with a Nazi helmet on. A German helmet.
Well, what was it? In Texas, in my book, I've got an excerpt where he came out to argue with the umpire, was arguing, spitting at each other, tobacco juice going this way, saliva this way. And Zim finally got mad and grabbed a hold of the chew in his mouth, threw it on the ground, and then the umpire and him are both looking at it, and they broke up laughing. Zim had pulled his false teeth out and thrown them on the ground, as well as the chew of tobacco.
Don Zimmer is the only player I've ever seen had chew and never spit.
Really?
I don't know where it went.
I think this is it right here.
Yeah, right.
So
Is that Manny Ramirez?
that's
Yeah,
Manny
yeah.
Ramirez.
and that's
So Pedro had done something before, and
Hey,
then
he
this
knocked
is
somebody down.
This is
He
retaliation.
knocked somebody down earlier. Here it is right
and then
here.
here comes Don. Like what? I mean,
He just threw him down.
Pedro, I think he's doing Don like a favor here.
patting Don Zimmer on the back.
The cop. Yeah. You're all right. The guy's 70-some years old.
I mean, Pedro, when you look at it like that, Pedro could have really hurt him. I mean,
Yeah.
He kind of did him a favor
Well,
by
Pedro
just
was a stud at them times too. Boy,
Yeah.
he was unhittable almost.
Yeah, well, he had knocked somebody down the day before.
oh, and this is
Yeah,
retaliation.
and
Yeah.
Zimmer just went to charge.
You're okay.
Look at David Ortiz. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Now you were with David when he got inducted.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was a kind of an individual that when Minnesota released him and he went to Boston, why did they release him? They said he couldn't hit. All of a sudden, he turned into a hitting machine. He might have changed his stance at the plate or something,
Right.
but he became a good clutch hitter. And I think for Boston, he was on 3 World Series teams with them.
Yeah, I think so.
They're America's team.
I think
Boston?
so.
I think so. Like the Dallas Cowboys claimed. I'm not a Cowboy fan, but the Cowboys claim to be America's team, and they are because people all over like the Cowboys.
Sure.
But I think the Red Sox are America's team when it comes to baseball.
Oh, you're going to piss off L.A. big time.
I don't give 2 shits on that.
Yeah, right.
There
No,
is
but
nothing in L.A. I care
I
about.
think people they like the underdog. They like the underdog when finally the Cubs won in 2016. They like the underdog when Boston won for the first time.
But now Boston's a staple there.
Yeah.
But just everywhere you go, you see Red Sox stuff. Everywhere you go.
yeah, and I mean it's nice to know that people respect the organization because I played there. We had a good team. We had Yastrzemski and we had Fisk and Rice and Lynn and Burles. They were a good ball club. We had George Scott for a while.
They weren't fun to pitch to.
No.
When your number 9 hitter is Hobson, who can take you deep in a New York second, that is not a fun lineup.
What do you think about baseball's going to be on strike now?
Yeah, they have the lockout, right?
And this is how
What
bad
is
it
it
is.
over?
I'm
What
a
is it-
sports
what-
fan.
what's
I had
that
to ask the same
They're
thing.
still negotiating. It's not over. Spring training was supposed to start the 14th of February
Okay.
for most teams. Pitchers and catchers report that particular day, and then the first day of spring training is the 15th of February. But now that's come and gone.
I'll tell you, I feel sorry for the businesses in Arizona that rely on this because that's a huge
Hotels,
thing.
everything. Oh,
That's huge for
used
them.
cars, rental cars, you name it.
What
I mean,
is
they
it
make a lot of money.
What is
Arizona.
the strike pertaining to? What are the players unhappy about?
I think with the reserve clause a little bit.
It's not a strike. The owners have locked them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the biggest thing, they're negotiating that it's the 5-year rule in the minor leagues and the reserve clause and free agency. There's so many categories that's involved in this, and they just can't seem to get it to the point. Oh, and they're share dividing at one time. See, the World Series, if you play in the World Series, the major team gets the first 4 games, and then anything after that goes to the owners.
Right.
And they're trying to divide all this different monies up. It's all about the billionaires against the millionaires.
Isn't that something? So did y'all play through a lockout in y'all's time?
Probably a couple times.
2 of them.
Yeah.
What is that? What do you do as a player?
Well, we worked out on our own. We went to basically the clubhouse. Joe Mackel was the clubhouse guy at the time. Hey, Joe, we need a case of baseballs. We're going to take batting practice for infield. We need balls to work out with.
And all of this was under the table because they couldn't participate.
Couldn't give you anything.
Yeah. And we worked out in baseball fields, high school fields, until it was over. The first one we were with was 60 days, right?
Yeah.
60 days.
It cost the Montreal Expos a World Series, one of them.
Yeah. 94.
They would have won that thing
94.
probably.
They had a great team.
Oh,
in
they were
94.
loaded.
Yeah.
As a baseball player, are you wanting to play? Are you wanting to get back out there? Or are you kind of taking this as a extended, let me get my body right?
No, I'll tell you, by the time when you get done in October, November, December, January, in February, you're going nuts as a player.
Itching.
You want to get back. I mean, you want to start playing. You want that life back.
Mm-hmm.
You want to continue to get paid at this point. But it's when you're playing baseball, with all due respect to the family, baseball is your life.
Right.
And it's like taking that life away from you.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as we want to sit out, and this is a good excuse. This is get this over with.
Right.
You know, I think football learned their lesson because they had an opportunity to have a lockout or strike a year ago or 2 years ago, and they got that shit hashed out before the season started. And baseball, I think, is really screwing up the owners because people already don't watch sports like they used to.
Yeah.
And people don't feel sorry for guys that are making millions of dollars a year.
No, it's really something you can't. I've been told a lot of times a family of 4 can't go to a ball game where they used to do it 3 or 4 times a week. Now you're lucky to do it once a month.
Just
because
parking.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Parking
so
alone
expensive.
at the new Ranger Stadium. I mean, it's
Globe Life Stadium.
Heck,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
expensive.
Well,
expensive.
when you've got a 24-inch hot dog for $25,
right. Beers.
I mean, that's right.
Beers $4.50 or something.
Oh, it's more than that.
Is it more than that?
I think
$8
I
probably.
think beer's like $25.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, if you take your family of 4 to a ball game and you have to buy your tickets, which we always get tickets somehow comped to us or given to us, but if you buy 4 tickets, you're going to spend you're going to spend $1,000 to take your family to a ball game for the night. Just $500 if you have to get a hotel in the Metroplex. You're going to spend $1,000.
Yeah.
Well, who can afford to spend $4,000 to take your family to 4? Now, if you
3
live in the
hours.
Metroplex
Yeah.
and you do it, you're going to spend a couple $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
you
you
better
have-
have a good credit card? That's
Yeah,
for sure.
that's right.
Did you have to do anything else? Have you had to do anything else to your Achilles since that injury? You said they just kind of stapled it
They
together.
stapled it. I rehabbed for almost 4.5 months. It happened September the 1st. I had my operation on September the 2nd. I was able to put a good boot on, probably sometime in December. I started to work out. I went to Boston University, and they put me on a machine to stimulate muscle because I had a lot of atrophy in my right leg. And I had a Pakistani doctor or a technician work me out in water because I was buoyant.
Right.
And I did that for almost 3 weeks. Went back home to Canada, and it was like I said, for February the 14th to 15th, went to spring training, and I started with a running shoe. That's the only thing that wouldn't swell my leg up, was working out with a running shoe.
You know, they got a new surgery for that now. They've got a new way of doing that because I've torn both of mine over the last 15 years, and it's miserable. And
Ask him how he did it.
Well, one time
Jumping out of a boat?
jumped out of a football stands.
I threw the game-winning touchdown, and he decided that he was going to be
Jump out of the stands?
jumped out of the stands because at Knox City there's a football field and then the track is around it, so you're not right on the football field if you jump out of the stands. So we did that, and
There was a mouthy guy behind me. When your son's quarterback, I told my wife this all the time. Quarterback gets all the accolades, and when he fucks up, everybody knows.
Oh, yeah.
I think I might have thrown an interception or something.
So
before
there was a
that.
guy running his mouth, and I didn't want to deal with him.
Sure.
And so I just jumped out of the stands, went down there. When Andy threw a touchdown, I jumped up, and when I did, I thought somebody hit me with a 2x4 behind my back. I mean, it felt like I thought somebody hit me with a 2x4 in the back of my leg.
Yeah.
And that sound, and then I did it playing basketball, the other one 3 years later, and I knew. But they've got a new surgery now that's not near as invasive, they say. But it is a miserable recovery.
Well, I got a scar on the back of my right leg about this long, where they went in and pulled the Achilles, it rolled up in my calf.
Right, yeah.
They pulled it down and attached it on the lower part of the heel.
The first one I did, I completely ruptured completely, the whole set, and I've got a scar about that big. They had to go from the top to the bottom. The second one wasn't the scar's a little bit smaller, but they've got one now that they do that they just, it's just a whole lot better way of doing it, but it's a terrible recovery.
Well, and I don't feel sorry for your 2-inch scar.
Is that Tommy John's?
No, I threw a pitch and tore the flexors tendons completely off the elbow, tore the medial collateral in half.
Now Dave Dravecki can stomp us all on that. Well, he's the one that threw and his arm bopped, and then he had cancer and had to get his arm cut off.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Ooh. Possibly. He might live in San Diego. He might still be alive, yeah.
You know, the thing about Fergie, though, he was able to recover a lot faster than normal. This is one of the top 10% of the athletes that were in the game at the time. I mean, Fergie's reflexes are awesome. Like he said, baseball was his third sport, and he's a Hall of Famer. Spring training, he is so accurate. Spring training, he was really a pain. We would do these drills of pitchers covering first and bunt plays, and you always had 8 or 10 pitchers lined up taking their turn, and Fergie always had a ball in his back pocket. And Fergie could stand 30 feet away and just flick it with his wrist and hit you on the toe 9 out of 10 times. And you're standing here trying to pay attention or acting like you are, and this ball hits you on the toe from 30 feet, and you start hopping around, MFing everybody in sight. And Fergie slides behind somebody as an invisible. The manager is on your ass big time for screwing around, and Fergie is over here. He could do this with consistency and did.
I bet spring training, by the time you've made the team in your third, fourth year, it's nothing but a lot of fun for 4, 5, 6 weeks.
It is, but the thing is that you got to get yourself in shape, and which I enjoyed that part of it. I did a lot of running. Later on, I didn't do a whole lot of running, but getting yourself in shape, knowing that you were going to be the starting pitcher, the opening day pitcher, I mean, that was a kind of an honor.
Yeah.
I got that opportunity to be the opening day pitcher, whatever team you're with, Boston, Chicago, or I think opening day a couple times with the Rangers.
When did you make the Hall of Fame? What year?
91.
Was your parents still alive then?
No, my dad was at the time. Yeah.
Proud parents.
Yeah, my dad basically he came to the Hall of Fame with me, but when I had the announcement given to me, and Jack Lang is the individual that phones you, and he phoned me on a Sunday afternoon about 5 o'clock, 5:15, that I'd made the Hall of Fame. My dad was the first individual I phoned, and I could tell on the end of the phone he was crying. He was happy for me.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Could you have been the first black hockey player in the Hall of Fame if you'd have stuck to hockey?
Ooh, Willie O'Ree was the first black hockey player with Boston.
No, that made the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I don't know. But I'm the, supposedly, who was it, Dave Winfield had an opportunity to play 4 different sports.
Right.
But I've got 3 contracts, major sports. St. Louis Blues, I worked out with them, got a contract. Harlem Globetrotters, and Major League Baseball.
So you had a chance to play pro hockey too then?
I had an
So
opportunity.
you weren't just the novice black guy playing hockey that you're trying to come across as.
Get one look, get roughed up one game, and you're like, I got to sit this one out.
Winfield,
I love playing hockey.
Winfield was a big man too.
Yeah, Winfield's like 6'6".
He was an All-American basketball player, baseball player, and football player at Minnesota.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't have 3 contracts.
No. But
Well, he was drafted by 3.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, he did. He got drafted by all 3 pro sports.
Yeah.
Did you play against him much?
Yeah, he was with San Diego at the time. I didn't pitch against him with the Yankees or with the. I'd already retired when he got the World Series.
He was like Parker. His arms were 9 miles long. I mean, he could stand on the extreme outside of the batter's box and rake the outside corner. Yeah. And you couldn't pitch him inside consistently either. Yeah. I mean, they were tough outs because they had such reach and such power.
Mm-hmm.
So Frank Thomas wasn't the first really big baseball player. There's been a lot of guys. back in the day?
Oh, I'll tell you what, Rico Cardi, just unbelievable. The body he had when he played for Atlanta. What, hit 361 that year?
Won a batting title. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, guys like Baylor, you could see muscle definition through the uniform.
Who's the guy that plays for the Yankees now that's so big?
Judge.
Judd.
Yeah.
Judge.
Yeah, Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
He's 6'7", 6'8". Yeah.
Just a monster.
Yeah.
He's
Of
a smooth
individual.
swing.
Oh, he's got a great swing. It was rookie year where he had 43 home runs,
Yeah.
44
Yeah, I
home
think
runs as
so.
a rookie.
You think baseball, you think why are we having so many more home runs now than we used to?
Because that's what they're trying to hit.
They want more activity, and the ball's fired up. Rawlings will not come forward and say, that ball's fired up.
So it's not the same ball you were throwing.
We played in the Kearney and I probably played in the dead ball
ball.
series or dead ball era.
So there's been different iterations of the baseball,
Well,
Yes.
the ball at one time was the center was a cork.
right?
Now I think it's rubber.
Oh.
And it's wound really tight.
It's got more bounce to
So
it.
it's got
Yeah,
more.
the ball they change the ball every pitch almost.
Yeah.
You can't go through 2 pitches in a row. Foul ball. I used to give me that ball. It's got scuff marks on it. Or the ball in the infield. A ball in the infield, they throw it around, then they throw it out.
Right.
Crazy.
So, when did they start that in your era of baseball?
No.
Of the foul ball, and then let's just get it out of here.
That was started probably early 90s.
Hell no, it cost money back then. They wouldn't get baseballs well like they do
Shoestring
now.
budget.
We used to go through 6 dozen balls in a game. Now they go through 13 dozen balls.
And talking about hitting, how many dingers you got in the major leagues?
I hit 14.
You hit 14.
Yeah.
That's
So
right. In
you-
the National League, you got to bat.
I got a lot of extra base hits. But the nice thing about it, when I went to the plate, I wasn't just going to stand there and be a strikeout victim.
Right.
So I wanted to swing the bat. And there's been some times when I hit off several pretty good hitters.
So
And you're the
Pitchers,
last
excuse
guy
me.
that they're gonna ding with the baseball because you can get them right back in the next
no,
inning.
they don't. They want to pitch to him because it's supposed to be an easy out.
Yeah, supposedly an easy out. My first home run was Don Sutton. Second home run, Tom Seaver.
You did. He hit him off some guys in.
Yeah.
But pitchers aren't supposed to be athletes. Like Jim, I don't think of Jim as an athletic guy.
Come
Jim's a
on.
smart chemistry guy.
Well, to me, I consider myself in the bottom 10% of the people I played with as far as athleticism. I was a one-trick pony. I could throw the hell out of the ball. I could throw as good as anybody. I was a very poor pitcher. I was a hell of a thrower.
Now, but Fergie was an athlete.
Fergie was 100% athlete. When they hit line drives back at him, and he'd catch it and stuff it behind his back and walk off the mound, and you look, what did I just witness? I mean,
Was Gaylord Perry an athlete? just a
Gaylord Perry
pitcher?
wasn't a bad athlete. He was probably middle of the road. He was just tough, ornery. You had to hit him with a big stick to beat him. I mean, that was just Gaylord's M.O.
Was Fernando Valenzuela an athlete, or just a guy could throw?
He's
Yeah.
real funky
Had a good,
motion.
good screwball.
Yeah.
But he was
They
a
said
pitcher, not an
they said
athlete.
They said he could hit too. I've never seen him really put the ball in play. 'Cause I only pitched maybe once or twice against him, and he didn't hit the ball that well. But when you think about athletes, Gibson was a great athlete.
Yes.
Jim Cott, probably Craig Maddox. Maddox he won like 14 or 15 Gold Gloves. I mean, it's incredible.
616 consecutive.
Is that right?
What about the guy that's your age that just retired, Ichiro Suzuki? What do you think about him? He's like 50 freaking years old. And he's still playing pro ball in Japan.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, if the money's right, I'm going to play.
But
I'll tell you.
still can hit the ball.
Yeah.
To me, one of the more impressive like that was Julio Franco.
Yeah.
Played into his 50s, and Julio could hit from day one.
He never did really know how old he was, though, did they?
Well,
Sometimes
back
the
in
Latin
our
guys,
time frame.
they said, well, he's only 25, but really he's 35.
Before we get off here, tell me a little bit about Louis Tiant. He's one of my favorite person. I mean, Louis is a person and a half.
Louis had a great two statements. When you play golf against Louis and you putt the ball and it just doesn't get to the hole, he calls that a Mexican ball. I said, well, how come, Louis? He said, one more revolution. And he's Cuban. But Louis, the first time I met Louis, we're in the locker room after a ball game, and he'd won a ball game, and he's got this big, long cigar. He walks in the shower with it lit, smoke, washes up, comes out, it's still smoking. Never got it wet. But he was a funny guy. But I mean, Louis he played almost 19 years in the big leagues, played winter ball 21 years.
He just loved baseball.
Oh, he loved the game. Well, it's back then, being a Cuban, he'd play in Venezuela or play in Dominican or Puerto Rico, but it was a money venture for him. Right? He played because of the fact that he couldn't get an off-season job. Off-season job was baseball.
One more guy. Tell me about Mudcat Grant, one of my favorite people.
Mudcat and the Kittens. He had a band that he'd tour with in the off season. He had 3 ladies that he would sing with because he was a great musician. He could play the piano and he could sing, and he was a blues singer. And he was a pretty good golfer too. When you didn't catch him putting it with his foot, he had that foot wedge. But I mean, he was one of the first players of color to win a World Series. He won 2 World Series games against the Dodgers.
And hit a 3-run home run.
I think off Colfax or Drysdale. But Newcomb was the first really good black player that was a dual. He hit like 30-some home runs, Don Newcomb. I think Mudcat maybe well over me. He had some teens, 14 or 15 home runs.
Do you think any of the pitching records will ever be touched, like wins and stuff from today's guys?
No. I'm trying to think, though. The Oakland player that passed away a few years ago won 26 games. White pitcher before Mudcat. And I can't think of who it was, but he played in the early 80s. That he won 26.
Dave Stewart?
No, not Dave. Dave won 20 games, I think 4 or 5 years with Oakland, but he won 26 games. Catfish won 25 the year that I did in '74. But you know, the year of the good athlete to play dual is the guy from Angels.
The Chinese guy, Shinjo or whatever his name is. He's a freaking stud.
But the biggest thing, how are you going to help the team? Do you think you can help the team by being a pitcher? You're only going to win maybe 7, 8 ball games if you do well. But as a hitter, he hit 40-some home runs?
Didn't he win multiple? Didn't he win double-digit games this year?
I think he won 10 or 11. But the biggest thing is he was MVP.
He should be.
Yeah.
Well, plus you're playing 7 days a week instead of twice a week as a pitcher.
But do you think any pitching records, like all-time victories or anything, I don't think the guys are going to ever pitch enough to do that again.
Well, geez, I think
how many has Verlander got?
About 185 to not 190, I think. And he just had Tommy John surgery.
Right.
So he's coming back. He might even have more than that. He might have 200.
Is Bartolo Colon still pitching?
226?
226. Ranking him the 70th winningest pitcher. So he's got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Is Bartolo Colon still pitching, or did he finally retire?
He's retired.
Did he?
Colon, yeah.
So I want to know, Brady just retired, 22 years in a locker room. You had 19?
He hasn't officially given it up yet.
Well, how many years did you play?
I played 21 seasons.
21.
Yeah.
How do you turn that off after 21 years and do mundane, I'm home now?
I'll tell you, for me, for the first 10 years, it is hard. It's not
10
easy.
years, so a decade.
10, 15 years, maybe 20, I'd get real antsy around 5:30 at night because this is where your life began, about 5:30. Even now, after I've been retired nearly 40 years, actually I ran out of teams. I didn't retire. But from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, it's hard to find something to do. It is just, for me, it's a dead time. I don't know about you, but...
Well, my situation, I was given the retirement. When the Cubs didn't need me anymore, Dallas Green said, "Hey, we've got youngsters that can pitch. They deserve an opportunity." Mm-hmm. And my wife wanted me home because I had 3 teenage daughters at the time.
Wow.
So, but what was nice to go home for the first time ever in the month of March and be able to fish for whatever fish I wanted to, for walleye or bass or muskie. But the thing, I came home with my dad. We had a small ranch, and I was raising quarter horses. Mm-hmm. And I was home with my father, and Dad was living with us on the farm. But I had another job. But the number one thing is I think it's family. You come home to your family. And my family, they grew up in the game of baseball, but I didn't grow up with them.
So
I miss graduations. I miss birthdays. So now I'm home with my family.
So let me ask you this: what kind of a? Because that's what Brady also said. Like, I need to be there for them. But at having teenage daughters, did you guys have a good relationship, or is that something that you had to work on whenever you were home all the time now?
I think I had to work at it because my kids enjoyed seeing me home.
Right.
And I had this, like I said, a small ranch, and I worked it. The nice thing about it is that the wife enjoyed me home.
Right.
Because of the fact that now she doesn't have to, I think, school the kids as much. Mm-hmm. Listen to your father. She would say, listen to your father.
Right. She's not judge, jury, and executioner.
No, not anymore.
Like, she's got a partner.
It's me.
Right. I'll tell you, my wife in the off season, you're gone for most of the summer. Even when you're home, you're not home. Mm-hmm. You're home so little. I'd come home and interfacing with the kids and discipline them occasionally. She'd look at you like, why are you disciplining my kids?
Right, right.
Because you're never there, and
for 9 months of the year,
they love you have you there in October. They like having you there in November. December, they put up with you. January, they want to get rid of your ass.
And February, you're gone.
Yeah, all you do is screw up their life.
Right.
Because they've got a system. They've survived without you, and they have this system.
Yeah.
It's like kids coming home during college in the summers.
Yeah.
You miss them at hell when they first leave. But then by the time they come back the next summer, you're like, son, bitch, I'm ready for them to go back. They've screwed up our rotation right
Well,
now.
it's kind of like grandkids, too. You're really happy when they show up and see them, and you're really happy when they leave because you get to sleep.
Yeah.
People do not realize that don't have grandkids.
Yeah,
The happiest moment is when they show up, and the happiest moments when they leave.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's how after hunting season, it's an all-in excursion. September to February, this is what we do. September and October are okay because it's just dove season. But I put my 7-year-old to bed last night, and I said, all right, but I'll see you in the morning. He said, that's right, because you're not hunting anymore, so I'll see you tomorrow morning when I wake up. I don't have to wait until tomorrow night to see you.
Yeah, it's supper time.
And stuff like that kind of tugs on you. You're like, oh, shit, you don't think that he notices it, but he's like, oh, that's right, Dad, I will see you in the morning for coffee. Yeah. I will see you when I go off to school. And I can just imagine what it's like for you guys because I've got the benefit of going to my house every night. Whereas a baseball player or professional athlete, you're on the road 80, 90 days out of the year, out of 162, so you're gone.
Yeah.
One of the biggies was my wife's story when my son was 2-3 years old, and I was on the road trips and had an all-star picture in the house, and she'd say, that's Daddy, that's Daddy. And so she wanted to keep that interface going. And so I came home one time and she was really proud. She says, Jason, where's Daddy? And he pointed to the picture.
Who this guy is.
That hurt.
He's just a stranger in my house.
He delivered the mail yesterday.
Too much.
Well, I appreciate you guys both being on here. It's been a great podcast. Jim's got the book on Amazon. Check it out. Fergie's playing golf all the time now.
Well,
yep.
Fergie, you've written what, 3 books?
Book.
You've got 5 books.
5 books.
Authored 5 books. The last one is about the 69 Cubs on how we played from spring training to the last 3 weeks of the season and then losing out to the Mets.
Is it on Amazon? Or
you can get it on Amazon, and you can get it through the Fergie Jenkins Foundation .ca.
Tell us about the foundation a little bit.
Well, I started the foundation in '94. And now I'm closing it down because I've gotten to the point, I've done it for well over 20-some years. And it's just the fact that, basically the strike is really hurt and also the COVID-19.
Yeah.
COVID, I mean, it threw a wrench into everything because you can't travel. I didn't go to spring training last year. And the nice thing that I had the opportunity to say to myself, I can relax. Mm-hmm. I didn't do spring training. I stayed home last year, and I bought 2 dogs, and I tried to train them as much as I could, and now they're 2 years old. And what's nice is I just try to relax.
But you've been doing this forever, and you've been going to spring training forever.
Yeah, and it just got to the point, I just felt at ease now that I didn't have to go to spring training.
Well,
and as of right now, I'm not going back. Nobody's phoned me to come back, so.
Well, and I'll tell you what, too. Now it gives you time to work on your marksmanship.
Yes, right. I could do that.
I watched your documentary on
Did you?
MLB Network.
Right.
you've overcome a lot.
Yeah,
in
it's-
your personal life.
Yeah, everybody, I think, has that tragedy that doesn't get publicized. But Marquee and Major League Baseball, they came to me and said, Ferguson, do you mind us putting this together about your life? And I said, hey, if you want to do it. It took them 6 months to put it together.
How long did it take you to be comfortable talking? Because I mean, you lost your wife.
Yeah, Mary Ann.
Right after
Mary
you
Ann.
were inducted in, or before you were inducted into
Before
the
I
Hall
was
of Fame.
inducted to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and then I lost a daughter within 11 months after that with a young lady I thought was going to help me out. Cindy helped me out with the kids. She was depressed when her mother passed away, and they considered it a murder-suicide. Yeah. And then I lost Lydia, who I had the relationship for almost 22 years. She developed some kind of stomach ailment or lower intestine, and it just took her. She lost a pound a day, and then her body just gave up.
I mean, I'm assuming you've sought out professional help to
yes.
talk about these issues.
Definitely.
And, I mean, my hat is off to you because you don't shy away from any of it. You know, you meet everything head on, and like this is your past, and we can discuss it.
Well, you know what this all boils down to? It's dangerous to marry Fergie Jenkins.
Thanks, Kern. No, but you know what's nice is that I've got good family ties.
Yeah.
With my daughters, and at the time my dad is still alive, and I went to counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can't do it alone. I went to counseling, and I had the clergy because Mary Ann was Catholic, and at the time Raymond was only 11 when he lost his mom, and then he was 12 when he lost his sister. So he at one time didn't understand what was going on,
Right.
and I tried to be as much of a help as I could. He hated school for some crazy reason. He had a tough time. I'd have to get phone calls in the afternoon. Mr. Jenkins, you got to come get Raymond. He's having a tough time.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine so. Like
Yeah,
his
and
mother
he's-
passes away, and then
He's
somebody
11,
that
12 years old.
Right.
He really the focus that he had, he didn't really understand it until he got older. I think.
How could you? I mean, as an 11 and 12-year-old,
Yeah.
like your body's changing, number one, at that age,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you've lost two mother figures and a sister.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be tough on any 12-year-old.
Yeah.
How did you go about? Your wife just passed away. You got the phone call that you're now supposed to be one of the most the happiest moment of your life.
Yeah, in the
And-
Hall of Fame, and I couldn't celebrate it with her. But and when I
Can you
went,
really celebrate? Like, how do you even get up for that at all?
you know, to me, it was tough.
Yeah.
And I there's been some quiet times when I just sat in a room and said, hey, you know, okay, one time I said, why me?
Sure.
And then I said to myself, everybody gets exposed to tragedies. And when I went to counseling, we were in a round robin type situation where there were two other families that had drownings or fires,
Yeah.
and you actually seen you're losing your loved ones. And I feel for them.
It don't take long to see someone that's got it worse than we do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But not everybody looks at it that way.
Yep, you're right.
We're all a why me person. Everybody is. That's normal.
Sure. But the nice thing about it, my daughters helped me so much, and I had counseling. You know,
Well, and
everybody
the other,
needs counseling.
The other thing he had was the baseball life and the baseball friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Randy Hundley was good. Billy Williams, Joe Pepitone.
You've got
There were a few
you've
guys.
got a crutches.
Yeah,
that
you
developed.
you take care of your own. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough. You know, somebody made a comment one time. She said, Ferg, you got to be in a rubber room. I said, please, I don't want to be in a rubber room. I want to live my life one day at a time and take care of my family, my kids that I've got now. And they're in Canada, Raymond's in Chicago. And I've got a great companion right now, a young lady here, Kathy Upton, which is really a super lady.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just trying to understand that if good things are going to happen, you can make them happen.
Right.
You have to make it happen.
Do you give, so your ability to overcome these personal tragedies, do you think back, did your days as a professional athlete help you in a way? Like you've just kind of got this mental toughness and the next step. Tomorrow's might be difficult, but I can do one step further.
I think baseball has helped because being an athlete, you know, you don't suffer with losses because
Right.
the next day is different. You know, don't let it affect you. But in some cases, when you're alone, it affects you.
Yeah.
When you're alone, that quiet time, there's been some times when all of a sudden I start crying for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad that I can talk to people. And I had that opportunity, and counseling really helped me.
Well, and you going through this, you can be of service to somebody else because whether we like it or not, tragedy is going to come on every one of us.
Everybody's going to have a certain amount of tragedy.
And now with you getting through it, your phone can ring one day,
Sure.
and you can, whatever you need, I can help you.
Yeah, I helped Bernie Carbo. The incident was brought up with Major League Baseball, and he had just lost his mom, and I think the father committed suicide, and he was sitting in a room, sitting on the floor with a bottle and a gun.
Wow.
And Bill Lee got a hold of me and I phoned Bernie. I said, Bernie, hey, you got 3 beautiful daughters.
Yeah.
You're going to affect them and their family. Don't do something that's you're not going to be affected, but they are. And you don't know what kind of tragedy they're going to go through.
Exactly.
So don't do whatever you, just put the gun away, please.
Yeah.
And I told Bill Lee, do me a big favor. And when I hung up with Bernie, I talked to him for about a half hour. Bill got a hold of Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball got a hold of Bernie at the time. And I'm not sure what city, if he was in Boston or he was in Michigan, but he straightened out his life, and he has really, really come around. I mean, they talk about people getting reincarnated in some respect. Bernie has changed his life. He's a different person now, and I'm happy for that.
All from that phone call.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing what you've done. It's amazing, the both of you. I mean, when you think about the people that you played with and the era that you played baseball, you played when baseball was at its greatest, in my mind. I mean, you think of the Babe Ruth era, and then you think of the 60s, 70s, and 80s of baseball, and you guys were at the pinnacle of that time, and you both led exemplary lives. So it has been truly an honor to talk to both of you. And yeah, I wish you the best with your book, and Fergie, it's been an honor to talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You know, with the book, Jerry Royce sent me an email that said, I said something about on Facebook that the book was not there to make money. It
Right.
was there to share these experiences. And Jerry Royce wrote me back and says, yeah, I was once told, if you want to make money writing, write ransom notes.
So a lot of truth in that.
Well, I appreciate you guys both being on here. And Fergie, I hope you could come hunting with us again this
I
year.
will.
It's been about 20 years, and we don't need to wait another 20 years.
No, you're right. If Kearney gives me the invitation, you want to give me the invitation? Hey, I'll be
I'm
here.
telling you right now, you've got an invite.
Beautiful.
So.
Open
All right.
invitation. You
Thanks.
just make that trek over here. and
Beautiful.
We know the hogs are pretty safe, so
Yeah, right.
You need to come out here and go
Maybe not
goose.
birds.
You come waterfowl hunting with us in November.
Okay, we can do
All
that.
right, we'd love to have
well,
you.
you know, we were talking. We're going to bring the dogs up and have you put out some pheasants and let us go with our dogs. And
We can do that. Just let me know when, and we'll sure get that done.
All right.
I appreciate you guys being here. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all, and have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. That was fun.
that's the problem. You get us rolling, it's never ends.
Yeah, right.